the old town, by the Methodist church with the gospel crown, by the government house I'm looking down on everything that we do. Pawn shops and distillery walls, the architecture of the market halls, the courthouse block where the criminals once hung in the public view. And I say, homily, let your words slide out. And when I talk through you, I have no doubt. Homily.
What's going on? How you doing today, everybody? So, here I am in Toronto, my hometown. I think I've mentioned that on pretty much every Toronto video I've done so far. I'm actually in a part of Toronto called Scarborough, which is the eastern part of the city. It's an administrative division of Toronto. And, yeah, this is Scarborough. Are you from Scarborough? That's what we say. And here in Scarborough, there are lots of things to see. It's one of the most multicultural parts of Toronto, that's for sure. And it's got some weird stuff. And one of the weirdest things is that there's a cemetery in a mall parking lot. Let me tell you a little bit about this mall, though. Mall? Quotes. Now, I'm not dissing Bridlewood Mall. But, I mean, it's not representative of the malls that are in Toronto, let's be honest. Toronto has to have more malls than any other city in North America. I don't know, I didn't do the research on that. But Toronto has a lot of malls. You know, Toronto's the fourth biggest city in North America? Fourth. Mexico City, Los Angeles, New York, something in that order, then Toronto. Chicago, he's right there. They're kind of, Toronto's the fourth. Anyway, so we have a lot of malls, but this mall is kind of known as, there's not a lot of high-end stores. It's more like, there used to be like a Zellers, I don't know if you know what that is. It's like discount department stores inside. I don't even know what's inside anymore. I mean, the mall's not open right now because of COVID, but some of the, like the grocery store here is open. And as you can see by the sign, I mean, there's two things on the sign. There was the Rogers and McDonald's. Rogers is the cable company here in Toronto. One of them. Conglomerate. But, yeah, the mall. No, yeah, the mall's closed. See, take a look. Oh, I wonder if I can get in. Well, you can get into the mall, but just nothing's open. So this is kind of what this mall's like. You catch my drift. I don't know what One's is. I've never heard of that store in my life. Aladdin shoes. I thought Aladdin would only have one pair of shoes. Like that. RIZW Electronics. You're catching what I'm, you're picking up what I'm dropping here. This is not, no disrespect to Bridlewood Mall, but this is basically it. Goes from here to the end. This is the mall. There's your food court. And look. Cellulose. Okay. We got it. So yeah, you see what I'm talking about. I mean, it's not hold rent through Macy's in here, which is fine. I guess if you need something from Cellulose, you come here. What the hell are you gonna get from Cellulose? But what's really interesting about this mall is there's a cemetery right there behind me. A cemetery in the parking lot. Yeah, come on, let's go. So this cemetery dates back to around 1840. And as you can see, look, this is the size of it. There, to that wall there. I'm going to tell you about that wall there. Now, I've known about the cemetery for, I don't even know how long. Forever. And it's called Christie's Methodist Cemetery. And I believe around in the early 1800s, there was a plot of land. This is all forested land, right? And it was owned by the L'Amoreaux family. L'Amoreaux? Yeah, I believe it was the L'Amoreaux family. Then they sold it off to a family called the Christies. Oh, the Christies. They shouldn't have opened the camp. And what happened was, there was a small Methodist group, churchgoers, that wanted to build a church. So the Christies said, you can build it here. Out here in our densely forested area, where the L'Amoreaux family had already cleared for farming. So there was this little patch of land right around here. So the Christies allowed this church to be built and a cemetery. And I believe the people were interred here around 1836. That's what I was just about to say. You know what? I could read this whole sign to you and tell you exactly what happened by just reading the sign. I know it all in my head, but let's take a look at the sign. This makes it easy. So it reads, Christie's Methodist Cemetery. Isaac Christie and his wife, Isabella Graeme, see, I got that right, Christie, came to Scarborough from Armagh, Ireland in 1836, purchased 100 acres of clergy reserve land in Lot 33, Concession 4. This land had been rented and cleared for farming by Josuᵑ L'Amoreaux and his sons, United England Loyalists of French Huguenot origin, Jesus, Huguenot, who settled here in 1808. In 1846, the Wesleyan Methodist of this area, led by Reverend T. Turner, built a small frame church stop. Thank you. Amid the fields of Christie's farm. These settlers and their descendants worshipped here for 80 years. After the congregation was absorbed into the United Church in 1925, the chapel was closed. In 1936, a fire destroyed nearby St. Paul's Church, and the Anglicans used Christie's chapel until their church was rebuilt. The old chapel was closed again in 1938 and later dismantled and reconstructed at Buttonville as a community hall, erected by the Scarborough Historic Society. I almost had heat stroke. So cut to 40 years later, and Select Properties Limited wanted to build a shopping mall here in 1974. But the people who had family buried here said, no, because the Select Properties want to exhume the bodies and move them. But back then there were very strict laws, or similar still, about moving bodies. The next of kin had to approve. The next of kin did not approve. So they had to build the mall around this shopping center right here. And this parking lot actually would have been bigger, or the mall would have been right around here. So they had to build the mall even further away for the specifications to fit this cemetery in right here. And it's crazy. It's really, really cool. So just seven of the original graves remain still intact. All the rest of the graves were pieced back together, what they could get, and put into the wall here. And I think I'm wrong. No, they're not on the other side. They're just on the one side. So right here are where all the graves are. But they've pieced back together a lot of the gravestones right here on the wall. One of them would be Christie. Here you go. Isaac Christie. So there should be a few Christies here. I told them not to open that camp. Isaac Christie. Isabella, wife of Isaac Christie. All the way down this wall, as you can see. So, the project manager at the time said, quote, semi-quote, that if little old ladies came to this mall and saw a cemetery, they would leave and never come back if they saw a cemetery outside. And he tried to change the name to Pioneer Memorial Park. But that didn't stick well with the city of Scarborough, and it's now known as Christie's Methodist Cemetery. So there's 7 graves still here that are standing. Let's see if I can find all 7. Let's count. 7. So there's one, Morley Morgan, 1877. George Morgan, 2. Eliza, wife of R.R. Thompson, 1877. So it looks like a lot of them from 1877 were able to. 1882, David Wright. Yeah. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's go around here. Sarah Jane Jackson. Sarah Jane Jackson. And 5, 6. This is Elizabeth Lee, 1887, age 49. I noticed that a lot of these people age 49, they're young. Well, 74. Age 35, age 36, age 55. Wow. And this one would be number 7. I'd like to see the name here. Can't really read the name, unfortunately. John Dunn, 1897, it looks like. It's really hard to read that. So there's actually about 100 people buried here. So as you can see, I mean, there's smaller little gravestones there in the wall, but 100 people are buried on this site where I am right now. So it's one of the smallest cemeteries. I would assume probably this is the smallest cemetery I've been in, and I've been in a lot. I find cemeteries, I've said it before, I visit a lot of them. Famous people or sometimes non-famous people, infamous people. And I don't find them scary or creepy. I get that question asked a lot. I find them peaceful and oftentimes, most times, beautiful. The gardens are always kept well at cemeteries. But when you think about what's like right behind me, like there's 100 people. The gravestones here on the wall, those are just the stones. The people are here. And 100 people. Like I said, I visited famous people. You know, I read a lot of biographies and do the research about before I go visit cemeteries if I don't know enough about the person. I don't know anything about most of these people here except what I've told you, and that's not a lot. But every one of these people has a story. Every one of these people here has a biography. It just hasn't been written. Everybody here, their lives are just as important as mine, as yours, as anyone I visited. Michael Jackson, Mickey Rooney. I'm just trying to think of Ann B. Davis, Alice. These lives are just as important. So I like the fact that they're not forgotten, that there is a memorial here to all of them. It's sad to think, well, no, now I'm having I don't know what I'm having. It's not sad. People die. People move on. It's a part of life. So it's actually nice that this is preserved. That the next of kin held out and said, no, you're not disturbing the final resting place of our loved ones. You go build your mall around it or build it somewhere else. And now there's supposed to be new condos going up here on the property too, and that's meant they were going to turn this into a bigger park around it. They want to move it too, but that condo was like 2010. There's nothing happening here. I believe this is 2020 now. Yeah, I think it is. Feels like 2080 at this point with what's going on in the world. But yeah, there's no condos going up here that I can see, no new ones. Those have been there for a long time. But from what I can see or tell from what I've read online, this cemetery isn't going anywhere. So the people that are resting here are going to be resting for a long time right in this spot where they should be. Let me give you a little final glimpse of how small this place is. There's where we came in. There's that sign. There's the wall. There's the first grave I counted of the 7. Number 4. I'm standing right here. That's the end of the park, cemetery. Back there. That's it. Right here. Cemetery in a mall parking lot. You don't see that often. I've seen some weird cemeteries and strange ones and rundown ones. Like I said, when I was a teenager, we came out to this mall for a few things and stuff. And you know, like there used to be the discount store over there, the big discount Zellers department store. you come for various things. And I always knew about this, and I always walked around a couple times. Now I'm actually getting to share it with everyone who's watching my channel. I'm glad I can. I hope the wind wasn't too bad for this. It's windy up here today. It's really hot. All we do in Toronto is we complain about the weather when it's hot and when it's cold. That's what Canadians do. We don't necessarily complain, but we like to talk about the weather. Should we talk about the weather? Should we talk about the government? Well, this is what we do up in Canada. And it is scorching. There's a heat warning. There's cooling centers set up. 2 weeks ago, it was freezing cold. And now it's just blistering hot. How it's going to be for the next 4 to 5 months, probably. Which I'm happy with. Well, 4 months. Then it gets a little chilly again. Then winter. But I want to give a big shout out also to Jamie. Jamie, take a look. Jamie from Minneapolis, who a while ago sent me a lot of Prince stuff. Prince-related t-shirts. After I was in Minneapolis, because First Avenue was closed. That's the club that Prince plays at in Purple Rain. It's the most famous club in Minneapolis. One of the most famous clubs in North America. So Jamie, thank you. I've worn all the t-shirts, and I'm wearing this one today. And I thought, oh yeah, I got to give a shout out to Jamie. Thank you, Jamie. All right. Peace to everybody that's resting here. And peace to you and yours during this horrible, horrible time that we're going through. And I hope this little video just gives you a little, I don't know, something. I don't know what it gives you. I hope it gives you something to do. Something to think about. Peace. I love you all. Out.